Aaron, thank you so much for jumping on the AIM podcast.
Doug, thanks for having me on.
This is a good one. I know this is going to be a good episode by looking at your setup. You're used to this kind of thing, aren't you?
Not my first rodeo.
I love it, man. No, this is awesome. It was great connecting with you at the Rogue Invitational, which was an amazing event, and you guys crushed it. It's funny, my friend Judah and I, who he helps run AIM and the platforms and all the business things we have going on. But the whole entire weekend we were in Austin, all we drank was FITAID. I was so dehydrated, had no water, but your team just kept giving us free FITAID, which was amazing.
Was your pee bright yellow as a result?
It was bright yellow, so I had to
Yeah.
recover and get the water. But man, I love it. I actually have some of the sticks here. I've got one right here on my desk. Actually,
Oh,
I've
there
got
you
a
go.
stick right here. I had a bunch in my backpack, but it was a great event,
I
man.
got a little focus aid. It's out of focus, ironically.
Let's go. Yeah, Aaron, like I said, man, I appreciate you jumping on. This is exciting. I think, just having the opportunity to pick your brain and hear more about your story is something I'm super pumped about.
Sweet. Let's jump into it.
Let's do it. So I guess, kind of setting the context, I'd love to hear more about your background, kind of growing up and even your interest or spark to get involved in this kind of lifestyle, obviously being an entrepreneur and growing a brand this big.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up always very health conscious. I didn't even know people took Advil for headaches until I got to college. So, my very natural, very clean upbringing. I grew up here in Santa Cruz, California, which is kind of the hippie capital of the world. We had natural food store, organic food stores, vitamin shops way before, any chains existed, before there was a Whole Foods, before there was, Vitamin Shop and GNC and that type of thing. So, grew up very congruent with living a very clean, healthy lifestyle. And, I was a sports chiropractor for 10 years. So had quite a bit of background in nutrition, working with high level athletes here in Santa Cruz. And, I'd have professional athletes coming into my office. And again, this is 11 years ago now. So, at the time, when you look at the beverage market, all you had was basically water. You had the energy drinks, the big three at the time, and then you had obviously the legacy sports drinks and the emerging, I'll say, health drinks, which was like kombucha and coconut water was really all that was on the market. And those were pretty hippy dippy, very acquired flavor profiles. So I'd have professional athletes coming in drinking energy drinks, and I'd tell them, man, you guys got to get off of that crap. You're going to get adrenal fatigue, and you're a Ferrari and you're putting 85 gas into a Ferrari. It just doesn't work. And they'd say, well, Doc, I drink a ton of water. What would you have me on? And so I'd be giving them like these little home concoctions to make and that type of thing, and realized there was really a gap in the market. There was nobody that had really clean, efficacious products that also had that kind of cool, sexy, hip lifestyle branding that the energy drinks did so well. That you didn't have to sacrifice on flavor. Again, kombucha at the time, especially kombucha and coconut water, early coconut water, very polarizing flavor profiles and not in that kind of cool kid category.
No, I love that. And I think that's, it's been interesting to see how you guys have dominated and grown so much in the market, especially different events like in CrossFit in that space. I know you guys are really dominant there. What was your, I know you were health conscious, that I'm sure that was a motivator, but what exactly was the motivator to start the company?
I've always been very entrepreneurial since very young age. Elementary school, I've always been, hustling in a good way, just, kind of working and realizing that, I got my first, real job when I was pretty young. And, I realized that punching a clock for a living just wasn't a way to get ahead. And so, even in college, I had a supplement business going out of my dorm room, and
Let's go.
I had worked in kind of yard maintenance, and anything really to kind of hustle and work and make a buck and support myself. And even before I was a chiropractor, which was great income, great living, but still it was still fee for service model. If I wasn't working, if I wasn't treating people, I wasn't getting paid. So it would create this weird situation. Like, I never took vacations over 4 days for 10 years. And when I
Wow.
was on vacation, it would always stress me out because my bills would still be coming in. I'd be spending money, and then I wouldn't be making any income. It was kind of like a triple whammy. So I knew I wanted to get into something where, I could make money while I slept, basically. And seeing the gap in the marketplace, and I had already had several entrepreneurial kind of side ventures prior to LifeAid. I met my business partner, Orion, who's a certified financial planner, in 2009 in a CrossFit gym. And we struck up a friendship and would always kind of riff about, different ideas and that type of thing. And really, the concept of LifeAid came about when we were at a festival. I was passing out, 5-HTP and milk thistle and B vitamins, and, because you're up dancing for a couple of days straight and your body's getting very depleted. And we thought, gosh, we should put these in kind of a pill form and sell them at like a 7-Eleven, and we call it party pills. And then we realized that, if supplements in pill form were the way to go, there's a brand, you probably wouldn't be familiar with it because you're too young, but when I was in high school, there was a brand called No-Dose, which people would take to study. It's basically like heavy caffeine hit and ephedra and like all this crap that's bad for you. But they're not really around anymore. And obviously everyone knows Red Bull as the dominant energy drink. So we decided, well, let's put, these party pills in drink form. And that's where kind of Party Aid came from, which was our original concept. And we said, shit, if we're going to do Party Aid, we CrossFit, why not a drink for CrossFitters? And that's where FITAID came from. And, we're entrepreneurial. What about Focus Aid? And so all of these iterations of these different drinks that we created and formulated, are all really secondary to our personal lifestyle choices.
I love that. I think the thing that stuck out to me, you kind of said at the beginning there of this, of the question that I asked, but I think when you speak to someone has that mindset, like entrepreneurs just operate differently, in my opinion, in terms of the way they think about opportunities, about the way they think about life, and just kind of what's on the horizon. I want to know more kind of about if you had mentors, if you had, someone younger that you looked up to, because I truly believe a lot of what happens in our life boils down to your experience and your exposure. Being exposed to different levels of or ways of thinking can really change how you think. A lot of people could say, man, you had an incredible position as a chiropractor, made great money. You should be very excited about that and very thankful. But obviously there's another element to that. When you get exposed to that freedom and that, the higher level, it's hard to remain in that state of mind.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm a gamer. I love being in the game. I love the hustle. I love, up leveling my game. And I had really, after 10 years of being a chiropractor and, doing really great work for thousands of patients and athletes, I had in my head at the time really hit the kind of ceiling of what I could accomplish, what I could achieve. Now, knowing what I know now, I could have taken that to a whole nother level, but at the time. And so I was looking, what is the next up level for me? And you mentioned mentors. I mean, mentors are huge, and mentors doesn't mean you need to like call somebody up on the phone and say, hey, will you be my mentor? A lot of mentors, especially early mentors, are people that you're seeing from afar. Maybe you're following them, you're on their list, you're on their email list, you're following them on social media or what have you. And, one of my early mentors, Ben Altadonna, who's still, good friend and a mentor today. I was at a conference he was putting on, and you mentioned mindset. And, I never was naturally, shouldn't say naturally. There was always a conflict growing up in between here in my mind between abundance and scarcity, right? My
Wow.
dad would say things like, the sky's the limit, or your attitude's your altitude, and, very like abundance type of programming, so to speak. And my mom, God bless her, would say other things like, money doesn't grow on trees. And well, in fact, it does, Mom. It's made of paper. And actually now it doesn't even grow on trees. It's just numbers in a computer. But, I was kind of getting this more abundance on one side, scarcity on the other side. So I was always in conflict, but, not coming from, abundance of wealth or anything like that, especially around money. I had more of a scarcity mindset for the most part. So I was at this conference, Ben, my mentor, was putting on, and he had this hypnotist come up, Marshall Silver. And this guy, at the time had been on all the big talk shows, David Letterman and everything. And, he hypnotizes, mass amounts of people. So I go up, try to get hypnotized. Apparently I'm not hypnotizable, right? So I get kicked off the stage and other people get hypnotized. So long story short, I see him at the bar, and you can't miss the guy, because I'll never forget, he had this all platinum Rolex that was just diamond studded throughout. So it was just shining in the light so bright. And, he's having a drink at the bar, and I sit down next to him. I said, Marshall, really, enjoyed your presentation today. I said, if there's one thing that can really change my entire trajectory from a financial perspective, is there any advice you could give me? And he said, yes, start your day every day with the mantra, today is a fabulous day filled with opportunity and potential. And he goes, 10 years from now, you'll be $1 million richer. That's what he told me.
Wow.
So literally, I just said, okay, well, what do I got to lose? So I've been doing that for, almost 20 years now, and been repeating that mantra. But that was the very beginning of something. It planted a seed that had me really start studying successful people, successful entrepreneurs, people that in my mind who had kind of quote unquote made it, right?
Yeah.
And what are the common themes? What are the commonalities amongst these people? And one common theme that I started taking note of is most of them, like 99% of them, had a morning routine. And so I really started diving into, why is this morning routine so important? What are the aspects of these different morning routines that resonate with the different people? And so I started experimenting with everything, anything and everything. If you name it, I've probably tried it. Cold plunges, meditation, Wim Hof breathing, yoga, walking, keto diets, intermittent fasting, like across the gamut. I tried everything, and I started going, wow, that actually works for me. I feel differently, or I'm setting off. And so, integrating every morning, my morning routine. And I realized, what is the significance? Well, why does that even matter? Because we significantly, as human beings, underestimate what we can achieve in the long term and in long blocks of time, but we overestimate what we can achieve in the short term. So if let's just say a 10-year block of time is quote unquote a long period of time, a decade, right? And we can achieve massive things in a decade's time if we're putting concentrated effort and energy towards a particular goal. Well, what is a decade? It's 10 1-year segments. And what is a year? It's 4 quarters, right? And what is a quarter? It's 3 months. And what is 3 months? Is 4 weeks in a month approximately, right? And in a week we have 7 days, and in a day we have 24 hours. So if you just kind of like break down, okay, everything starts with like, this 24-hour block, and then it goes to a week, and it builds out from there until eventually we hit a decade. So knowing that I want a certain trajectory, and that trajectory will lead me to a particular endpoint, potentially a decade from now. It may not happen in a week or a month or a year, but a decade from now. And I'm thinking in blocks of 10 years. How do I set that trajectory in motion? Well, it starts with how I start every day, because how I start that day sets into motion how I'm feeling, what I'm going to accomplish in that day. And that day leads to a week, and a week into a month, and so on and so forth. So setting that morning routine, setting yourself on the right trajectory in the morning, sets yourself up to be successful for that day. And that's been a complete game changer, for me, is just being very consistent with the morning routine, knowing what works for me and my body. I did it today. I started bringing my son into my morning routine recently, which even in the last 2 weeks that we've been doing it together now, I've seen a massive change in his attitude and his energy levels, which has been really, great to witness.
I think there's so much to be said about people that are optimistic. I think there's got to be a level of, keeping things in check, but people that wake up and just have this positive, radiant energy is so powerful and so valuable to not only, the people that are directly around, but honestly the world. You never know who you're going to affect by just waking up and saying, today I'm going to crush it. Today nothing's standing in my way, and I'm going to kill this. And I think, what you said, that mantra is so powerful. And I love that. And I think, tying in a morning routine is something that, successful people do. What does your current morning routine look like?
Yeah, I'll go through the specifics, of just on the mindset issue. I mean, some days you wake up and you don't have that mindset. You do not feel like, oh, I'm going to crush it today. But the power of the morning routine is you can literally change the way you're thinking for that day. Like if you wake up and you're not feeling great, once you finish the routine, it puts you in that zone that you need to be in order to crush. So typically I'm waking up around 6 a.m. I will drink a glass of water. I'll go, now I'm waking up my son as well. And I'll start, my coffee. I'll do a ketogenic coffee. So I'll do a scoop of 7 medicinal mushrooms. I'll do a little scoop of cacao in there. I'll do some MCT oil, some Kerrygold butter, and a little full fat organic cream. And, I'm making my coffee. And then I'll do about 10 minutes worth of yoga. Okay. So I'll do mostly like a low back protocol, because that's been my more chronic issue from old injuries and things in the gym. So I'll do full yoga. Then I'll drive with my son, and I'll do a little bit of exercise. I'll do 50-ish push-ups in a row, and 75 sit-ups type of thing after doing yoga, and then just stretch a little bit more. So I'm just kind of getting things loosened up, getting things moving. Drink my coffee on the way in. We do a short morning prayer in the car together. And then I get to Natural Bridges Beach, which is about a block from the office here. And I park about a quarter mile away from the beach. And we walk in. We're just kind of breathing and getting a little bit more movement. We go in. We've got this log that we sit on. And usually, the sun's just kind of coming up and radiating on us. Then we'll do a nice deep. Let me back up a little bit. When I'm showering at home, I'll go through right at the end of the shower. I'll do a short Wim Hof session, maybe like a 15 breaths, 20 breaths, and then I'll turn the hot water off and just kind of do a little cold plunge to end my shower for about 45 seconds to a minute, just in the cold water, which is challenging in the wintertime sometimes. But it's amazing. It really snaps your body into, it's almost euphoric, really. It's euphoric. But when we walk to the beach, we sit on our log, we do a much deeper round of Wim Hof breathing. And for me, I have a challenge meditating because I'm very ADD type of person. But when I finish and I go into that breath hold and the Wim Hof, that helps me get into a very meditative state. And, I'm typically doing the breath hold for about a couple minutes. So, I get into that meditative state, and then I'll go into box breathing or square breathing, right? So it's like a 5-second breath in, 5-second hold, 5-second exhale, 5-second hold, and I go into this box breathing, and I literally make a point to check in with every sense. So meaning I'm doing a full around the box with how do I literally feel and get into touch with how everything is feeling in that moment. And then how does everything smell in that moment? How does everything taste? So as I'm sucking in kind of the fresh air from the beach, and it's kind of mixing with my coffee, and how does that taste? And then what am I hearing? And so I go through each sense, and I just do it nice and methodically and slowly. And then I'll, let myself just kind of come out of that when it feels natural. I'll do a sun salutation, a little stretch. I ground myself. So we put our hands either on the log or in the sand, because so much of us are wearing shoes all the time, and we're actually not grounding ourselves in nature. There's powerful energy there. And then, I drop my son off at school. We say today is a fabulous day filled with opportunity and potential. And then, I'm in the office. I'm ready to rock and roll. And that, that pretty much sums it up. One piece I did leave out, right before my shower, I'm filling out the 5-minute journal, which is a gratitude journal. 3 things that I'm grateful for, 3 things that'll help make today great, and 1 self-affirmation. And then in the car, I'm asking my son those questions. I go, what are you grateful for this morning? What'll help make your day great? And what are, 1 self-affirmation. And, gratitude is an incredible way to start out your day. And then, as I'm going through my square breathing and everything on the beach, I'm really focusing on, the gratitude and power that we have as human beings. I mean, one thing that I've learned is how powerful language is. And, in being in an abundance mindset, one of the quickest ways you can identify people that are in scarcity mindset, which you really want to separate yourself from, because it's infectious. If you're in scarcity mindset, it's typically because you are a victim and you're hitting glass ceilings in multiple areas of your life, because, you're answering the fundamental question inaccurately and correctly is, am I a victim? And anytime you say yes, subconsciously even, you're going to hit a glass ceiling. And people that are victims will always go through this kind of scarcity death spiral, I call it. And their language reflects that. They use a lot of soft talk. It's like maybe, shoulds, coulds, mights, right? And they use a lot of negations, can'ts, won'ts, shouldn'ts, right? And so, being very mindful when I show up in the office and when I'm communicating with my kids and my team, that I'm using affirmative language. This is what we are doing. This is, committing language. This is what I'm going to get done in the time frame that I'm going to get it said I'm going to get it done in. Not I might turn this in today, or I might do this, or I should do that, or I might come over and see you. No, I'm either going to do it or I'm not. And holding myself to that level of accountability has really kept me out of slipping back into a scarcity mindset and kept me more on a definitive path, knowing exactly what I'm going to do, committing myself to it, and doing what I'm going to say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it.
Wow, that's amazing. I love all of that. I think the gratitude thing is huge. I think gratitude directly ties into perspective. And I think a lot of times we get into these mindsets of, I don't have everything that, I'm not the CEO at FITAID. I'm not, running a company like that. And, my life is not going in the trajectory I want, but just breaking down what you're truly grateful for, I think can totally change that. And I love how you also tie in the accountability piece, because I think that's something that we lack as a group of people, like collectively. I think that's just something missing in our society right now. There's a lack of accountability. So this ties in great to kind of the next thing I want to talk to you about is like building a nice culture and a team. Like you're having to make decisions with the position you are in the organization of how you want your presence to be delivered amongst your team. So I want to talk to you about that, like how that looked, how that grew, and then kind of what are some things that you try to emphasize on in a little more depth with your team in order to be successful.
There's nothing I try to emphasize. There are things that I do emphasize. And I am constantly bringing the things that I am learning that work for me and sharing them with the team. Every team member, when they join and during onboarding, they get a notebook. Why? Because I would get all my best ideas, at random times, or if I've had a couple glasses of wine or I smoked a J or something. And then it was like, oh, I'm going to remember that. It's such a great idea. And then I wouldn't remember. And this was another game changer, is when I started writing everything down. So everybody gets a notepad to write things down. You got a good idea, write it down. Don't think you're going to remember it. They get a 5-minute journal, so they can practice gratitude if they so choose. We talk about language. We put people through my good friend Mark England's vocabulary course, which breaks down in 30 days, in a repetitive manner, teaches you to eliminate soft talk and negations. We bring in guest speakers, constantly holding people accountable and working with them to create the best human beings. Because a lot of people separate, this, well, you have your work life and you have your home life, and that's total bullshit. We all know it's bullshit, because if something shitty happens at home and you get in a fight with your significant other, it's going to affect how you work that day. Or your boss yells at you and you have a horrible day at work, it's going to affect, how you show up at home. So it's just life. There is no separation. It's just life, right? And so the better human beings we can help cultivate and develop at LifeAid, the more they're going to show up in their role as a team member here. So it's great to see people become better husbands and better and fathers and mothers and that type of thing, because that's just a strategic byproduct of the development work that we're doing here. Now, if people are waking up and they're not happy, you mentioned like, sometimes you're not on the right trajectory, or you're jealous. It's easy to fall into that jealousy, or I wish I was doing this, or that person must have it so easy. We all fall into that trap. But it's very important to not be absorbed by that, because we should only be comparing ourselves to one person, and that's ourselves. That's it, right?
That's good.
We're all on our own journey. We all have our own challenges. Some people have had greater obstacles than others, but what we need to realize is that we're all exactly where we need to be right now in life. And I'm not saying we're all exactly where we want to be. That's a different thing, right?
Right.
We're all exactly where we need to be. And if you take that approach, you say, okay, I'm exactly where I need to be, and that where I am, I'm not happy with, and these things aren't going right. Then if you're analytical about it, you can reverse engineer and say, well, I'm not a victim. I'm a product of my decisions. Okay. We were all taught in school the bullshit. This is total bad programming in school. It's school taught us all about cause and
Effect.
cause and effect, right? And it's total bullshit. Cause and effect doesn't exist. Cause plus reaction equals effect. Cause plus reaction. Here's the example I give. If your old man was an abusive alcoholic father and my old man was an abusive alcoholic father, you and I would end up in the exact same place in life 100% of the time. And we know that's not the case. There's people whose old man was an abusive alcoholic father that are homeless, and there's other people that are billionaires, literally, right? So it's not cause and effect. It's cause plus reaction, how we react to the environment. Okay. Shit happens. That is true. You know, pain is inevitable. Pain happens to us at the earliest stages of our life. We learn to start walking, and what happens? We fall and we scrape our knee and we cry, right? Now, if we wanted to avoid pain at all costs, which is what society teaches us to do, then guess what? We'd all be going around in wheelchairs because we'd be afraid to walk again because that caused pain, right? But no, what do? We get up and we work at it and we go again and again. So what we need to realize is life should not be about avoiding obstacles or avoiding pain, okay? That's a victim mindset. It should be about embracing the obstacles, embracing the pain, because we know on the other side of that, after I've scraped my knee a few times, all of a sudden I've got my balance and now I'm walking, and then I learned to run. Right? On the other side of that is growth. On the other side of that is growth. So instead of obstacle avoidance, it's embracing the obstacle, saying this is put in my life right now at the specific time for a specific reason. And I know that. And on the other side of that, I know there is growth. And growth is all about changing that trajectory. Okay. So again, coming back to we're exactly where we need to be. And if we're not happy with that, what decisions have we made to get there? How can we improve our decisions? How can we improve the cause plus reaction? How can we improve the reaction part of that to have a different effect? A different effect. And that different effect over time will equal a result. And now that result starts to change our programming. It starts to change our belief system. I'll give you a fitness example. You know, we talked to a lot of coaches in the fitness space, and everybody's got that client that comes in, you know, they're overweight and they're just, you know, on a bunch of meds and they never get the results, right? They don't get the results. And of course, it's the coach's fault. It's the programming's fault, and it's everybody's fault but their own. And the bottom line is, you know, they can say, well, I have bad genetics and here's all the reasons I've got old injuries and here's all the reasons I can't get in shape. And it's all total bullshit. Because if I said, look, I don't care what your genetics are, you know, your injuries, everything, you wake your ass up at 5:30 a.m. like I told you to every single day. You don't skip, you do your stretches, you go for your walk. You know, you cut your junk food out. You get off of all the sodas and all the shit. You eat clean. You show up to your workouts. You stop skipping them. You stop making excuses. Guess what's going to happen 6 months, 12 months from now? They will be in a better position. They will be in better shape than they are today, 100% of the time. So what changed there is they started acting differently. They started acting differently. Instead of hitting the snooze bar, they're waking up on time. Instead of choosing to eat junk food, they're eating clean. Instead of skipping the workouts, they're choosing to show up. They're acting differently. So there's this spiral that we get into inside of our own head. It starts with our belief system, and part of our belief system is a passive process. Between 0 and 7 years old, we know the research tells us that we're not really actively making decisions. We're in download mode. So we're downloading a belief system, usually from our parents, if they're the ones that are raising us, right? And those are the people we're hanging out with the most. So we get this belief system established in a passive manner between 0 and 7. Then we start making our own decisions from there. The challenge is if we get a shitty belief system to start with, you know, our operating system's bad, then the thoughts, the repetitive thoughts going through our mind may be around scarcity or what have you. And then the words that come out of our mouth are reflecting our thoughts. Our actions back up our words, which are acting in scarcity mode or acting in I'm, you know, forever going to be fat because I've got bad genetics mode or what have you. It doesn't matter what it is. And then the result that we get, right? Those actions over time equal a result. The result that we get is bad, which reinforces what? The belief system.
Right.
And we see this all the time with friends or family members, right? They're a negative Nancy, and then they just manifest. They're creating their own environment. This is literally me breaking down what the law of attraction is. We've all heard about the law of attraction and self-manifestation, that type of thing. This is breaking down the law of attraction. It's beliefs, thoughts, words, actions. Actions over time equal results. Results reinforcing a belief system. So how do we break the negative spiral? There's only two ways, because you can't just start thinking differently. You can't just start believing differently based on, without having an experience. So how do we change this spiral if it's in a negative direction? We can talk differently, or we can act differently. Those are the only two ways that I found you can break the cycle, right? So being very mindful of the words that are coming out of your mouth, even if you're like kind of thinking in scarcity mode, be very conscious to not communicate in scarcity mode. So talk differently and act differently. Wake your ass up every morning, make your workouts, blah, 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 whatever it is. Like if you're broke and you don't want to be broke for the rest of your life, how do I speak in abundance mode? How do I act like rich people act? How do I start acting in a way that attracts abundance? And you start talking differently and you start acting differently, you're going to get a different result. And that result over time will start to change your belief system. Like, wow, maybe I can get in shape. Maybe I'm not a victim to bad genetics, right? And when you actually start to change your belief system, it starts to change your thoughts, and then your thoughts dictate your words, and your words are said now with real conviction because you have something to back it up. It's not just talking and acting differently. It's actually conviction behind it. And then you really see accelerated growth in any aspect of your life. And again, it comes back to find an area of your life that you're not happy with. I guarantee you're answering the fundamental question inaccurately, incorrectly. You're saying, well, I am actually a victim at the end of the day. If you break it all down, strip it all away, say, okay, I'm hitting a glass ceiling because in my mind, I'm a victim in this aspect of my life. Let me pull that back. I'm not a victim. I'm in charge of my life. I'm a powerful human being. And let me start talking differently and start acting differently and watch a different result form. And that'll change your whole belief system.
That is the truth. I truly believe everything you said. And I think a lot of times people just neglect the detail, like how impactful the details will influence your success. And honestly, I think there's a lot to say there, where, the power of consistency and how it compounds and how you grow. Like, just like you said, the confidence that you're able to build and grow from seeing success, and you're not going to have that overnight. And I think this kind of ties into a question I'd love to pull into your thoughts on FITAID. But a lot of times people are scared of the process. They're scared of the journey. And I know this is mindset. This is perspective. You could look at it and be like, wow, there's a lot of unknowns. It's not guaranteed. Or you could say, wow, this is a great opportunity. This is a chance for me to do something special. During your time growing FITAID, and I know you guys are nowhere close to being done. I'm sure you have even bigger and better goals that continuously evolve. But did you see any point in that process that scared you, or that made you think, man, this might not work out, this might not happen the way I want it to? Or were you able to just smoothly sail through this timeline?
Daily. I mean, yeah, yesterday. I mean, it's constantly happening. There's constant doubt creeping in. There's constant challenges. But again, I can choose to tuck tail and run, or say, oh, woe is me, this isn't working out how I expected, or I'm a victim. Or I can say, this obstacle is before me. It's there for a reason. I know on the other side of that obstacle is massive growth. So instead of avoiding it, let me embrace it with open arms. And that is literally a conscious decision that I make every single day of my life, because it's very easy to slip back into victim mode. Misery loves company, as we've all heard, right? So it's easy to say, oh, it's Biden's fault, or it's COVID's fault, or it's this or that. It's like, no, bullshit. It's my fault. Okay. And the more we accept that, the more we can actually do something about it.
I completely agree. I think just the level of ownership you have to take is truly, determinant of your success. And I really appreciate your time here. This has been incredible. I want to be sensitive to your time. I know you're crushing it over there, but Thank you so much. I guess my last question, kind of wrapping this up, is what kind of advice would you give or leave for someone that's, in a position where they're ready to make a next step, they're ready to change their life, and they want to be successful? Well, what would you tell them?
It all starts with today. Eliminate the excuses. Make decisions that are going to move you on the right trajectory. Don't be focused on velocity, how quickly things are happening. Okay. That's especially with the younger generation. Everything's so rapid. Phones, everything, blah, 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 blah. I need it to happen now, no, 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 no. It's the wrong approach. If you focus on trajectory, do the right things because they're the right things to do, and you have the discipline over time, I promise you, a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you'll be in a completely different place, and if you're not have already achieved it, you'll be very well on the path to achieving whatever you want out of life.
Wow, I love that. Aaron, you're a legend. Thank you so much for doing this. It really means a lot to me and the AIM community. We really appreciate you.
All right, Doug. Appreciate it. Good times.
Thanks.